Capricorn, a cycle is coming to an end. Prepare for a necessary goodbye. I invite you to take a breath, not just to calm your body, but to ground your soul. Can you feel it? That quiet hum in the air, the subtle sense that something deep beneath the surface is about to shift? This is no ordinary moment. You are standing at the edge of a great threshold, one that the logical mind may not yet fully grasp, but your ancient soul already recognizes. For months now, you've felt the restlessness rising like a silent tide. Situations that once made perfect sense have begun to unravel. Relationships that once anchored you now feel strangely distant. You may not have words for it yet, but something in your inner landscape is preparing for release. And that's because a cycle in your life, one that shaped you, tested you, matured you, is now completing its sacred course. This is not a failure. It is not abandonment. It is a rite of passage. And it is happening because you are no longer who you used to be. Capricorn, the person you became during this past cycle, has fulfilled their role. And the next version of you, the freer, fuller, truer you, is waiting to emerge. But to cross that invisible line, something must be left behind. This is your necessary goodbye. Not a goodbye rooted in fear, but in trust. Trust in the timing of your life. Trust in the intelligence of the universe. Trust that what is dissolving now is simply making space for something more aligned, more elevated, and more yours. If this message finds you at just the right time, it is not coincidence, it is alignment. Stay with me. Over the next few minutes, we'll journey through 4 sacred gates of transformation. You'll learn what's ending, why it hurts, how to release it, and what is waiting for you on the other side. If your heart stirs with recognition, feel free to subscribe or share this with someone walking their own goodbye. Not out of obligation, but as a quiet yes to your own soul's unfolding. Let's begin. Gate 1, the weight of completion. Recognizing the signs a cycle is closing. Capricorn, let's begin with honesty. You are not the type to romanticize change. You are loyal, structured, and deeply committed to what you build, whether it's a home, a career, a relationship, or an identity. You stay when others run. You repair when others abandon. And yet, even you can feel it now. Something in your life is closing. At first, the signs were subtle. You told yourself it was just a phase, a mood, a miscommunication. You clung to your usual tools: discipline, patience, responsibility. You doubled down. You pushed through. But no matter how hard you worked, something felt off. Not broken, just complete. Capricorns don't collapse easily. You don't walk away at the first crack. But this is different. This isn't about weakness. It's about alignment. And Gate 1 is asking you to do the one thing your soul has been quietly preparing for. Recognize that a cycle has run its sacred course. This cycle might be a relationship that no longer nourishes your spirit. A job that once lit your ambition, but now drains your essence. A version of yourself that played its role well, but is now keeping you small. It's not failing. It's finishing. Take the story of Mara, a Capricorn in her early 50s. For 27 years, she worked at the same firm, first as an analyst, then a manager, then director. Everyone admired her dedication. She provided for her family, climbed the ranks, and became a symbol of success. But over the last 2 years, she noticed something shift. The excitement was gone. She dreaded meetings. She felt invisible. Not because anyone pushed her aside, but because something inside her had outgrown that space. Still, she stayed. After all, Capricorns don't quit. But then came the dream, 3 nights in a row. She saw herself packing a suitcase, leaving a building that collapsed behind her and walking toward a quiet mountain under a sky filled with stars. The imagery was clear, almost poetic. She knew the cycle was over. Mara left her job not in rebellion, but in reverence. She took 3 months of silence. Then, she launched a consultancy for small ethical businesses, something she had always longed to do, but never allowed herself to dream of.
She didn't jump.
She ascended. That's the kind of ending you're facing, Capricorn. Gate 1 is about listening to the subtle endings that don't scream, but whisper. The friendships that no longer feed you. The habits that once served you, but now sabotage your joy. The environments that once felt solid, but now feel tight, like clothes you've outgrown. Here are a few signs that a cycle in your life may be completing. The familiar becomes unfamiliar. Places, people, routines that once comforted you now feel emotionally distant or energetically stale. You're resisting without knowing why. A task that used to excite you now causes a quiet dread. A conversation that used to flow now feels strained. You feel the weight of obligation more than the fire of purpose. You're doing the right things, but they feel heavy, mechanical. Dreams begin to speak. Recurring imagery, symbols, or emotions surface. Packing, closing doors, traveling light. You begin to fantasize, not about escape, but about emergence. A new city, a new expression, a new version of yourself. Capricorn, these are not random feelings. They are invitations, not to run but to release. You are being shown what no longer matches your frequency, not because you're failing but because you've evolved. So, why is it so hard to accept? Because you were raised by culture, by family, by your own inner rules, to complete what you start, to finish strong, to endure. And those qualities are beautiful. But sometimes, the most courageous completion is a gentle letting go. Gate 1 invites you to shift your definition of success. It's no longer about how long you can hold on, but how true you are willing to be. True to your soul, not your image. True to your inner guidance, not external expectations. Capricorn, pause with me here and ask, what in your life feels complete, even if you're still showing up for it? What part of you is quietly asking to be released from the role it's been playing? The truth is, most of us wait for collapse to justify change. But you're wiser than that. You don't need a crisis to recognize a completion. You just need to trust the gentle signs. Imagine if nature behaved like humans. Imagine if trees refused to shed their leaves in fall, clinging to what was, afraid to look bare. The beauty of the next bloom would never arrive. And you, Capricorn, are not just a builder. You are nature. You too are part of the sacred rhythm of creation, fulfillment, and release. You don't need to burn it all down. You don't need to explain your every feeling. You simply need to notice, to name it, and to say gently, this cycle is complete. I honor what it gave me, and I am ready for what comes next. Capricorn, you have the gift of time. You see the long arc. But don't let loyalty to the past cost you alignment with the future. This gate is your first key. It doesn't require you to take action yet. It simply asks for recognition. Because once you acknowledge what's ending, the universe begins to open new doors. And when those new doors appear, you will walk through them not as someone lost in grief, but as someone wise enough to honor the ending and brave enough to say goodbye. Gate 2, the sacred grief of letting go, when goodbye is the initiation. Capricorn, if Gate 1 asked you to recognize that something is ending, Gate 2 asks you to feel it. You see, Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, the planet of time, karma, and sacred structure. And so often, your way of handling endings has been to intellectualize them, to wrap grief in logic, to keep moving because there is always a task, a duty, a mountain to climb. But what if I told you this? Grief is not the opposite of strength. It is the doorway into transformation. Letting go is not weakness. It is a form of initiation. You're not just saying goodbye to a person, a place, or a plan. You are mourning who you were in that chapter. The version of you who gave everything, love, energy, vision, to something that is now fading. And that is no small thing. Consider Elijah, a Capricorn in his late 30s, who spent 7 years pouring his heart into a relationship he thought would lead to marriage. He was devoted, practical, supportive. He stayed when it got hard. He built a future around their shared goals. But over time, small fractures became quiet distances. Eventually, they reached a point of stillness, not from peace, but from absence. The breakup wasn't loud. It was slow, almost invisible. There was no betrayal, no crisis. Just the simple truth. We're no longer growing in the same direction. And that made it harder. Because how do you grieve something that technically didn't go wrong? Elijah described it like mourning a ghost. There was no funeral, no closure, just empty space where a future used to be. Capricorn, you may be feeling something similar. A silent sorrow, a numbness you don't know how to name, an ache that isn't sharp but steady. This is the sacred grief of letting go. You are being invited to feel what it cost you to stay so long, to hold the dreams so tightly, to carry the weight, the hope, the responsibility. And now, in the quiet, to lay it down. That grief doesn't mean you failed. It means you cared. You showed up. You gave something everything you had. And now, you're being asked to release it, not as abandonment, but as evolution. Capricorn, if you could sit with your grief like an old friend, what would it tell you? It might whisper truths like these. I'm not here to punish you. I'm here to honor what mattered. I'm not your weakness. I'm your witness. You don't have to rush through me. You can rest in me. Because grief, when welcomed, becomes a teacher. It shows you what you truly valued. It reveals the depth of your devotion. And it clears space for the new to arrive. Not rushed, not forced, but ready. But here's what's important. Grief is not linear. You may feel strong one day and shattered the next. One moment you're relieved, the next you miss something you thought you were over. This, too, is sacred. Capricorn, you're not here to get over it. You're here to move through it. So how do you do that? First, name what you're grieving. Maybe it's not a person. Maybe it's the dream of a role you thought you'd grow into. A belief that hard work would always be rewarded. A version of life that no longer fits. Write it down. Speak it aloud. Give it the dignity of being witnessed. Second, let the emotions come. As a Capricorn, it's easy to suppress, to stay composed. But this is a gate of release, not restraint. Cry if you need. Yell if it moves through you. Sit in silence and let the tears flow down your face without apology. You are not breaking. You are emptying. Third, honor what you learned. Even if the ending feels painful, what did that chapter give you? What skills did you gain? What strength did you build? What parts of you were revealed? Make a ritual of it. Light a candle. Write a thank you letter to the version of yourself who walked that path. Burn it. Let the smoke carry your blessing. Capricorn, the reason this hurts so deeply isn't because you're weak. It's because you invested fully. You built something with your whole self. That's what you do. And so the grief of goodbye is not just an emotional response. It's an energetic shedding. Think of a snake shedding its skin. It's not an act of death. It's an act of growth. But it still involves a moment of rawness, vulnerability, exposure. This is your skin shedding season. And here's the mystery. The more honestly you feel your grief, the more softly the next chapter will arrive. You don't have to chase what's next. You simply need to let what was move through you. When you allow yourself to fully feel, you open a door to healing that cannot be accessed through thinking alone. Capricorn, you've been strong for so long. Let this be the moment you allow softness. Not because you've lost your edge, but because your soul is asking to be seen, not as a worker, not as a warrior, but as a human being. You are allowed to release with tenderness. You are allowed to say, "This hurts, and that's okay." You are allowed to say, "I am grieving, but I am also becoming." In ancient rites of passage, letting go was always sacred. It marked the threshold between identities, between chapters, between lives. And now, you stand in that very place, not at the end of something broken, but at the initiation of someone new. Let yourself grieve. Let yourself breathe. Let yourself be rewritten. Because Gate 2 doesn't close the book. It simply turns the page. Gate 3, the soul mirror, relationships that reflect your evolution. Capricorn, by now you've begun to recognize what is ending, and you've honored the grief that comes with letting go. But there's another dimension of transition that may be stirring within you, and it lives in your relationships. Gate 3 opens the door to one of life's most mystical truths. The people in your life are mirrors, reflecting back who you are and who you are becoming. As your soul evolves, those reflections begin to shift. Some become clearer, others fade, and some shatter completely. You may have noticed this already. Certain friendships feel strangely distant, even if nothing happened. Conversations feel forced. Shared values seem to have quietly diverged. You laugh at different things. You no longer feel safe being fully yourself. Or perhaps you're in a relationship where your roles have become scripts, familiar lines, dutiful scenes, but no spark of truth. You are present, but not alive. Capricorn, this isn't about blame. It's about resonance. Just like musical notes that once harmonized beautifully, some connections have simply come to their natural vibrational end. This doesn't mean the love wasn't real. It doesn't mean you failed. It means you grew. Let me tell you about Leanne, a Capricorn who had been best friends with Maya since high school. For over 2 decades, they were inseparable. Vacations, weddings, births. They shared everything. But as Leanne entered her late 40s and began a spiritual awakening, she noticed a shift. She had started therapy, begun meditating, started questioning old family patterns. She felt a desire for depth, for healing. But whenever she brought it up, Maya rolled her eyes or changed the subject. "You're overthinking again," she'd say. "Just have a drink and forget it." At first, Leanne defended her friend. That's just who she is, she told herself. But inside, she felt unseen, dismissed, alone. It took a long time, 2 years of small distances, awkward silences, missed birthdays, before she finally accepted the truth. Their bond had stopped reflecting her truth. She didn't end the friendship with anger. She ended it with gratitude, and sadness, and respect. But she did end it. Because here's the lesson. You cannot shrink your becoming to keep a connection that no longer fits. Capricorn, Gate 3 is asking you to look with clear eyes at the people in your life, not with judgment, but with reverence. Ask yourself, who reflects the version of me I'm trying to release? Who challenges me to stay small, agreeable, or silent? Who makes space for my truth, even when it's messy? Who no longer hears me, not because I'm quiet, but because they've stopped listening? You are evolving, and your relationships must either evolve with you or bless your path from a distance. This is especially true for soulmate connections, those deep, karmic relationships that seem destined. Sometimes, these mirrors are the most painful to release. But remember, not all soulmates are meant to stay. Some come into your life to awaken something, to teach you what love isn't, or what it could be. And then, when the lesson is complete, they dissolve, gently or suddenly. Capricorn, if someone has left recently, with or without explanation, it may be that their role in your soul's curriculum is complete. You don't have to vilify them, and you don't have to chase them. You simply have to bless the mirror for what it showed you, and then continue forward. And yes, this gate is not only about who is leaving, it's also about who is arriving. Because when you start to align with your deeper truth, new mirrors appear. You may meet someone, romantic or platonic, who sees parts of you that you'd hidden for years. They reflect your softness, your creativity, your sacred longing. And while that may feel exhilarating, it may also feel terrifying. Because now the mirror is asking you, can you allow yourself to be seen at this level? Relationships that reflect your growth will feel different. Less performative, more present, less about roles, more about resonance. These new connections may not come wrapped in the packaging you expected. They may not check all the boxes, but they will feel true. Capricorn, you've spent so much of your life being the reliable one, the responsible one, the grounded one. Now, relationships are calling you to be something else too, the real one. Gate 3 is also about your relationship with yourself. Because no mirror is clearer than the one you hold inward. Ask yourself, when I look in the mirror lately, who do I see? Do I recognize the person I'm becoming? Am I making room for my own evolution, or clinging to who I think I should be? This gate is about choosing resonance over routine, truth over familiarity, alignment over obligation. You don't have to cut ties with everyone who no longer gets you. But you do have to stop editing yourself to keep those ties intact. Because every time you silence your soul to preserve a dynamic, you dim your own light. And the world, your world, needs your light right now. Capricorn, as you move through this gate, allow yourself to sit with one final reflection. Relationships are not meant to trap you in the past. They are meant to walk with you into the future. And if someone can't walk with you anymore, it doesn't mean they didn't love you. It means they loved a version of you that has already begun to dissolve. Let them go with grace. Make room for what's next. And trust that the connections coming into your life will be ones that see you, not as you were, but as you are. And that is the most sacred kind of mirror there is. Gate 4, the higher calling, stepping into the soul path beyond the goodbye. Capricorn, you've walked through the valley of endings. You've faced the ache of letting go. You've examined your relationships like sacred mirrors. Now you stand before Gate 4, the final threshold in this cycle, and it is not about release anymore. It's about rebirth. This is the gate of your higher calling, the space where the old has crumbled, the familiar has faded, and you are standing in the stillness of what now. It can feel disorienting, this in-between. You're no longer who you were, and you're not quite sure who you're becoming. But make no mistake, your soul knows. Capricorn, this is the moment where the mountain calls. Not the mountain society told you to climb. Not the one built from expectations or praise. But the real mountain, your soul path. You've always been a builder. But now, the universe is asking you to build something different. Not just a career, a home, a name, but a life that vibrates in harmony with your essence. And that means listening to a new compass, one not found in spreadsheets or plans, but in synchronicity, intuition, and trust. Consider Andre, a Capricorn woman in her 50s who had spent her whole life in corporate law. Structured, precise. She was excellent at it, but inside, she was quietly withering. Her soul had been whispering for years. You were meant for healing work. She ignored it. Too impractical. Too risky. But when a family loss shook her world, something inside cracked open. She left her job, moved to a quiet village, trained in herbal medicine. Today, she runs a small apothecary and counsels others on emotional resilience. She makes less money, but she glows. She is living her higher calling. Capricorn, you don't have to leave everything behind like Andre, but you do have to ask yourself, what have I outgrown, but am afraid to admit? Where am I succeeding but starving? What am I called to create that no one else may understand yet? Gate 4 is about trusting that your soul's longing is not a distraction. It is direction. And yes, this kind of calling doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it speaks through restlessness, or a dream, or an idea that won't go away. And often, it speaks when everything else has gone quiet, like now. This gate is also spiritual. Many Capricorns have spent years mastering the material world. But Gate 4 asks, have you also built the inner temple? This is your invitation to expand not just your status, but your spirit. To explore practices that nourish your soul, whether that's prayer, creativity, silence, nature, or service. To become not just efficient, but embodied. Not just strong, but surrendered. Not just responsible, but radiant. Capricorn, you are not just a worker. You are a vessel of wisdom, a mountain who remembers the sky. You are meant to lead from depth. So now, ask yourself, what would it look like to live in alignment, not just success? What wants to be born through me that I've kept waiting? If I weren't afraid, what would I begin today? Because this is a moment of activation. Astrologically, you're being supported by slow, potent transits that strip away illusion and build foundation. Pluto has been reshaping your inner life for years. Saturn, your ruler, has matured your boundaries. Now, as Jupiter casts light on your creative house, something new wants to bloom. And it's not random. That new project, that soulful career pivot, that calling to share your voice, your truth, your gift with others, that is real. It is the echo of the life you're meant to create beyond this cycle of endings. But to step into your higher calling, you must choose trust over control. Capricorn, I know how hard this is. You are most comfortable with strategy, security, guarantees. But the soul doesn't work on spreadsheets. It speaks in symbols, nudges, divine timing. This is not the phase where you need all the answers. It is the phase where you say yes to your alignment, even when the outcome is unknown. You don't have to leap off a cliff, but you do have to take the next honest step. Write the page, make the call, book the trip, say the thing, send the resume, start the course, plant the seed. Say yes to the whisper before it becomes a scream. And remember, your higher calling is not always one big thing. It's often a way of being. Choosing truth over pleasing. Choosing depth over performance. Choosing alignment over approval. It is living in such a way that your presence becomes a signal to others. Here is someone living from the inside out. Capricorn, the world needs that version of you. Not just for you, but for us all. Because when a Capricorn chooses alignment over obligation, everything changes. Systems shift. Families heal. Legacies transform. So as you walk through Gate 4, I invite you to write a new vision. Not just for your work or your relationships, but for your soul contribution. Ask yourself, what wisdom have I earned through these endings? How do I want to serve? What light am I meant to offer? And let the answers come, not from urgency, but from stillness. Because you are not late. You are right on time. Gate 4 is not the end of a cycle. It is the beginning of embodiment. You are not being asked to start over. You're being asked to start truer. This is your legacy moment. Not the legacy built on ladders, but the one built on truth. Step through the gate and walk forward, not with fear, but with sacred purpose. Conclusion, integration, and empowered farewell. Capricorn, if you've made it this far, take a moment, breathe with me. Something sacred has just happened. You've walked through 4 soul gates, the quiet unraveling of cycles, the grief and grace of goodbyes, the mirrors of relationship evolution. And now, perhaps the most courageous step of all, the choice to live aligned with your deeper truth. You have not merely survived a transition. You have honored it. Endings are not always loud. Sometimes they come wrapped in silence, subtle changes, inner knowings, quiet shifts in longing. But you heard it, you felt it, and you chose not to turn away. That choice alone is a revolution. Capricorn, as the sign of legacy, responsibility, and sacred work, you've often carried more than your share, across lifetimes, across generations. But this new chapter ahead of you is not about carrying. It's about becoming. About creating a life that honors your soul just as much as your structure, that balances your wisdom with your wildness, that lets your softness stand beside your strength. This is the gift of the necessary goodbye, not loss, but liberation. And as you step forward, you are not empty. You are available for deeper connections, aligned purpose, sacred joy, mirrored truth. You are ready. If this message found you at exactly the right time, trust that it was not random. Synchronicity is one of the universe's most intimate love letters, and this message was written in your name. Now, beloved Capricorn, take one last breath. Release the old. Bless it for what it taught you. Then turn your face toward the light. The next chapter isn't just waiting for you. It has already begun. If this video resonated with your heart, I lovingly invite you to like, share, or subscribe to this space. Not for numbers, but so that this kind of healing can reach the people who need it most. Your energy matters. Your story matters. And you, dear Capricorn, are deeply, divinely guided.